I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, brought to you in part by Zoetis. $4 a pound? Really? Not for an individual steak at your favorite grocery store, for a whole choice carcass, the way it's priced, leaving your packers supposedly wholesale. And it's just unbelievable. We've broken through every barrier anybody ever thought. I was talking with some of my contacts today, and nobody can even guess how far this thing's going to go. I don't know how much gall they've got, how far they're willing to take it, and still denying that they're gouging consumers. They're just completely taking advantage of this crisis here, the packers are. But Choice Cuts got to $410.05 on Monday afternoon, and we're going to talk a whole lot more about that, talk about how much they're making now, and it's probably not going to get any better, guys. Monday we had an announcement that Cargill at Schuyler plant's going to be down possibly for 2 weeks, and oh my gosh, that is just another gut punch that we cannot stand, and hard to see how we're going to get through this deal till we can consistently keep these packing plants open. And it's just a glaring evidence of how vulnerable our industry is, that we don't have enough slaughter capacity, we don't have enough smaller packers. We haven't made it easy enough for the small locker plants that we have to be able to sell their own product. Of course, they're all backed up right now too. Try to get a kill slot for a steer or a hog right now. It's just until it's all next year before you can get in. But we've really got ourselves in a mess, and it took this pandemic to really pull the covers back and show how bad it was. But it's really a bad deal, and until we can consistently keep these packing plants open, it's hard to say when this deal is going to get any better. We had some recognition on the minimum 3014 deal that we've been pushing here on this report, and I've got several outfits that are behind this pushing, but for the most part, in the public eye, this has been the only place that we've seen it that much being pushed, at the outside of some interviews and things like that from some of the guys that are included in this with the U.S. Cattlemen's Association and what have you. But really humbled by the following that we have here on the Feeder Flash, and you guys see that we average about 7,000 views, and that's just on YouTube, and that's from a shared link. Not just a video. Whenever you scroll by it clicks another view. No, that's one that people want to go to. They click on it and watch it, and for the most part they watch most of the whole video. We get that many on YouTube, and then we embed that link into our website at nationalbeefwire.com, and we get about that many or more views on there too. So it's not baby kittens and things like that, but I tell you what, for no more people that are really interested in the commercial cattle market, tickled that we have that big of a following, and the fact that we got recognition on the minimum 3014 deal starting out this week on Monday. It really tickled me to death. We actually made an NCBA press release. And they didn't actually make a comment about the 3014 deal. They just shared a letter from Dr. Stephen Kuntz from Colorado State University, who they had funded to do some research and analysis on price discovery in the fed cattle arena. And I'm sure not criticizing that at all, using some checkoff dollars to do that. In fact, that's probably the best expense of checkoff dollars that I've seen in a long time, is enabling somebody with a lot of credibility to do some research and analysis and try to find out a little bit about your cash trade and the price discovery or lack thereof that we have. And in no way, shape, or form am I criticizing Dr. Kuntz, his credibility, his research, his analysis, his letter, or anything. But I am going to address this a little bit, and I know that it's taboo to do that, and I'm just going to tell you guys right now that I did not hang myself in my cell. So if you guys find out different than that in the next day or two, I have no plans to do that at all. But NCBA supposedly got a letter from Dr. Stephen Koontz. They shared it on a press release, which seems kind of odd. But it was all about some of the analysis that he had done for them, trying to find the point at which we get true price discovery in your cash fed cattle market, for which all of these formulas are based upon, that are the lion's share by far of your fed cattle marketing in your feedlot industry for steers and heifers. And he was kind of saying in this letter that he did not necessarily appreciate us using his analysis to back up our argument for the minimum 30-14 initiative that we're pushing. And he was just saying that he wasn't saying that there needed to be mandated minimum requirement of cash trade. He did not support that and didn't think that it was a good idea. He did say that if you are going to have something that your cash trade is still the best indicator of price discovery that we have available right now, and that if you want to have some price discovery, you're going to have some cash trade. Well, that's kind of what we're thinking too, and we decided to go with the minimum 30% volume per plant instead of something more aggressive like a 50 or higher, or a majority that some of your outfits and many of them are pushing. But so we kind of feel like that we're sitting in a good spot right now. We've got some cattlemen's associations. We've got some state affiliates of NCBA that have been involved with us in this whole process, because they have members that they have to. They've got members that have their cell phone that they live down the road from, see in the auctions, see at your stock shows, and they see at all the different ag events of the year round, and they've got to answer to those members, and they need to do something. So we've got that bunch up there, and mostly in the Midwest, they're asking for 50% or better, and we think that would be great. But we don't believe that we could get it. Down here in the Southern Plains, and I'm about the only one that lives down here, at least this far south, you've got a lot of your bigger feeders down here, and the outfits that represent those feeders saying they don't want to rock the boat. They think it's the craziest thing they've ever heard of. They think, hey, you just look at the board, you buy feeder cattle that'll hedge, you hedge those feeder cattle, you put them in the feedlot, you charge yardage, you charge feed to them, you hope for a basis, whatever your basis is, that's what your profit is, and you buy another round. You just keep rolling, which works just fine for them. The problem is, as we keep jumping at those bases, we keep losing market position, and we're getting to the point where your average backgrounder, grazer, grower, and your cow-calf man can't afford to raise them anymore. So what are we going to do then? What are we going to do then whenever a guy shows up with some yearlings and he's backgrounded all summer long or all winter on wheat, or he's bringing them off right now like they did in the sales on Monday, and there's no demand for his feeder cattle? There's only 6 or 8 outfits left feeding cattle, and they get their heads together just like the packers do, and there's no demand for his yearling feeders anymore. So he can't afford to do it anymore. So then they take over that spectrum of the cattle industry. So then you got your cow-calf producers. Well, there's only a handful of outfits they're handling backgrounding cattle, turning them out, grazing them, and growing them to a feeder weight. And so there's not very much demand for the calves. Then your cow-calf producer can't afford to raise calves anymore. That's what we're looking at, guys. That's what we're absolutely looking at, and we've got to strike while the iron's hot. We've got to do something here to try to get something done. But we see by the issuing of this letter that NCBA is not in favor of doing anything other than status quo. Keep collecting their dollars. Keep putting out the happy face that everything's okay while people are going broke and everybody's struggling. And it's really ridiculous, guys. We've got to do something. We've got to stand up for ourselves, and we've got to do something. And NCBA doesn't want to do anything. The guys, some of the other guys want to do more than we can get. That's why we've decided to compromise, and that's what this 3014 minimum requirement is. It's all about compromise. We know that over half of your cattle that are marketed, steers and heifers in the commercial market, they're fed. We know that over half of them are by your big corporate outfits that have a formula deal. Okay, that's fine. We're not saying that we need those guys to be put out or not be able to do business the way they want to do. Just because they're corporate doesn't mean they don't have every right to make a profit too. But profits are hard to come by, guys, unless you just want to work for the basis all the time. So you've got that, and so we figure there's no way we can get 50. If they're taking half already of your volume, there's no way we can get 50. So we figure we'll take 30. We'll let 50 to 60% be your big corporate guys that have the formula deals, the sweetheart deals that they've had forever. Some of those corporate feedlots have actually bought their facilities from the packer. And of course, they're promised to them, so they know where the cattle are ultimately going to go. Although, if your packers can't take them, then they just decide not to pick 25% of them up if there's a pandemic or something like that. And then those guys are just kind of stuck with those cattle, trying to figure out how they're going to market them, like your individual independent cattle feeder is. And so we figure we'll leave the 50 to 60% for the big corporate guys. We'll let another 20% for your guys that are in these branded programs. Maybe some guys that feed some real plain cattle. Not all the plain cattle are sold live. Some of those plain cattle kill better than they look. And that happens a lot of times. They want to have a grid. There's some guys in the Midwest that want to have a negotiated grid. That's good. We want to give them room for that. And then we want to mandate a minimum 30% cash per facility, not just area or 5 area or nation, but per facility for a competitive, active fat cattle trade that gives some true price discovery. In Dr. Kuntz's analysis, he gave 2 points. He gave the point where you reach zero price discovery, or the point that it even comes to play at all. And that volume is about where we're at right now with this minimum trade that we've been seeing. And then he had a point that he called robust price discovery. And that was approaching about 30% depending on what the volume was. But in the letter he's saying that we should not have taken it that way. But we appreciated the analysis. We appreciated the NCBA and the checkoff dollars for funding that analysis. We're not sure about the funding of the letter, though. That remains to be seen. But ultimately, we're just glad that we're getting recognition for the minimum 3014 initiative, and we hope that it emboldens you guys that are listening here, talking to your friends and neighbors. We hope you still get on and get on the sign-on letter. We've got about 5,000 outfits, ranches, cattle companies, sale barns, feed companies, real estate holdings, everything. We've got a lot of different outfits that are represented on there. We've got some support with your key legislators that we need, and we're going to continue to push. So that's where we're at on that. Let's look at the board for Monday. June live cattle futures up 82 cents at 88.07. August is up a half a dollar at 93.05. You go on out from there, and it's up 37 cents to 87 cents. May feeder cattle up $1.25 at 119.07. August up $1.32 at 128.97. You go on out on your feeder cattle out fronts, they were up 70 cents to 132. Your fat cattle weighted averages for last week's volume which was less than 50,000 head, only 47,800, but actually not too bad for no bigger than the kill is. But they did sell some cattle on these huge price ranges. You know, we always talked about how one price couldn't buy all the cattle. We wish one price would buy the cattle now, especially if it was up towards the top of the price range. But they sold in the 5-area feeding region, negotiated cash last week. They sold steers and heifers live from $90 all the way to $105. Now, that $105 came late in the week. Some of your packers trying to save face and be honest and give a little bit of the huge astronomical profits that they're making. But some other ones wanted to get in there and buy cattle as cheap as they could. And we've got guys that are desperate to get rid of cattle. These cattle have been backing up. They're getting heavy on them. They need to go with them, but they just can't because we can't keep these packing plants open, and they're not moving enough fed cattle through the system, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, guys. But look at your weighted average on live steers, and also you might notice that your average weight on live steers marketed last week was 1,494 pounds. Nearly 1,500 pounds, guys. That's the average. But your live steer weighted average price was $98.53, actually $1.84 higher than the previous week. So I guess that $1.84 live is supposed to make us feel a little bit better about these these profits that these packers are making. And I did some cowboy math. I'm going to show you that in a minute again. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. Your dressed prices, steers and heifers, 5-area feeding region, negotiated cash, 147 all the way to 160. Your weighted average dressed steer price was 154.36, up a nickel per hundred. So basically steady. Nationwide, they only sold 60,300 head, but one key thing of note there, all of last week's trade was for current delivery. Nothing for the 2 to 4 week delivery, and that could be expected the way things are. They actually sold some cattle on Monday, and if a guy gets a bid, he's going to take it. And that's what I'm talking about, how we need a mandated minimum negotiated cash trade, because if you're selling cash and a packer comes by earlier in the week and gives you a bid, you better damn well take it, because he's not coming back. Now, if they were forced to buy 30% minimum negotiated cash per facility, he would likely be back again later in the week with his hat in his hand, kind of seeing how you responded to that first bid that he gave you, and then he'd be ready to bid you again because he needs some negotiated cash trade. But packer buyers come out and start bidding on a Monday because they need cattle. The guys take the bids because they have no choice. Iowa sold about 600 head confirmed on Monday from 95 to 96. That's already quite a bit less than your weighted average on live steers. A load or two there at 152 dressed. Now here's your box beef cutout values. What I talked about, open this big long report you guys wish you hadn't clicked on. Choice cuts, 410.05. $410.05 per hundredweight for a choice carcass, the composite value of all the different cuts added together. That was up $32.60 compared to Friday afternoon's trade. Wow. Wow. Wouldn't it be great to be a packer? Your select cuts, 376.66, up 19.53. And in one session, we see a huge choice select spread all of a sudden of $33.39. It likely could be closed up during one of the sessions this week, but it probably has a lot to do with it was so nice this weekend in so many places. Even though they were getting gouged, people wanted to cook out, and then they wanted to get together with friends, even though they weren't supposed to get together. They wanted to go back to living their lives. And in my opinion, they had every right to. So they went out and they bought some steaks to grill out, and those guys needed to backfill those empty shelves for that product. And anytime we start seeing grilling demand and food service demand, then we're going to see a bigger Choice Select spread, because Select actually works pretty good. No more of it than we have anymore in your retail markets. But also we started opening some of our restaurants, limited mostly, most areas, to 25% of capacity. But still, your food service hasn't bought any product for quite a while, and so when they came in, they probably went for the Choice, and we got a big Choice Select spread on a good movement, a one-day movement of 121 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Now let's look and see how much money are these guys making. You take that $410.05 for your Choice, and then you have your premium for Prime, and then you have $40 back on your Select or your no rolls, and your Select is $376, or standard or no rolls, excuse me. Then your Select's $376.66. You go across with the nationwide grading average there, and then you come out with $4.04.88 dressed. That's what a dressed steer should be worth, according to what the meat's worth. And they're given, top price last week was $160. They're worth over $4 a pound, and they paid your cattle feeder $1.60. Swallow that a little bit. You take it towards your dressing percentage, and a pretty good one there, and you get your live equivalent price of $257.10. $257.10. The highest that live cattle have ever brought in the history of the world was $1.72 during the 2014 rally. And according to what meat's bringing, a live steer should bring $257.10. They paid last week, top price, $1.05. So let's don't be conservative this time. Let's don't use a 1,300 pound steer. Let's use like what the average steer was for last week that was sold, a 1,500 pound steer times that $257.10. We've got $3,856.50. That's what a carcass is worth. And they're paying the guys $1,575 for one. These packers are making nearly $2,300 per head, killing 3,000 to 4,000 head a day in each one of these facilities. They would love to be killing more, but if they kill more, then there won't be a shortage. So this is kind of a balance deal that they may well could drag out until sometime next year if they play their cards just right. Why? Because we got no other place to go with them. So don't expect them to get in too big a hurry, because they know these cattle are backing up. They know they're going to get 90% of them, or 95 or 99, because where else are you going to go with them? And so they've got this deal right where they want it. They can drag this out for a long, long time and just keep making these monster profits. So look at your feeder cattle deal. Not a lot of profits in there. Your real-time index on DB auction late on Monday at 121.79, up 87 cents. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 11,800 head. They got to sell them, guys. These cattle are coming off graze out wheat. They got to move them. So what are they going to do? Are they going to feed them with the big boys? Hell no, they're not going to do that. You talk about, it's the difference between losing several of your bigger pastures or losing the whole ranch if you decide to feed with the big boys when you don't really know what you're doing. So they're going to sell them. Oklahoma National Stockyards, 11,800 head. Feeder steers and heifers, $1 to $5 higher. Your steer calves were steady to 5 higher in a light test. Heifer calves steady to 3 lower in a light test. Look at this one long string that come from National Livestock Commission there. We get this information real time right from the block. National Livestock, 124 head, 850 pound steers, bring $121. And that's a heck of a good price there and a full extent of the market. Joplin Regional Stockyard, 7,300 head there in Carthage, Missouri. Feeder steers steady to $3 higher. Feeder heifers were steady. Your lighter weight calves steady to $5 lower. It's gotten hot. Most of your guys have already turned out on your leased pastures and things. And your stocker deal is just not going to be quite as hot as it's been all spring. But you look at a long string out of Joplin Regional Stockyards, 161 head, 787 pound steers, bring $1.26. Russell Livestock, Russell, Iowa, 4,300 head there, The calves were very uneven. I mean, from $4 lower to as much as $10 higher. But your feeder steers and heifers were $4 to $10 higher than the last test they had. And look at all these big long strings they had on there. Some of these load lots, some of them not quite load lots, but sure 50 head or better in there. And look how well they sold. Had a pretty good string of 5 weights there, weighed 578 at 156. 3 loads of 7 weight steers there, range in price from 142 and a quarter to 144.35. And then look at your 8 weights, several strings of those there. 116.75 all the way up to 123.50, and the 123.50 was paid for some that weighed within 7 pounds and 900 pounds there. So heck of a good sale at Russell, Iowa there. But top quote that I saw come out of Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, 59 head, 783 pounds, pretty close to 800 pounds at 133.75. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.